Select Board meeting. Today's Monday, July 22nd. I'm Sabrina Dunlap, and we have a full board. It feels like it's been a while. So we have Ken Fromm, Stephen Whitley, Thomas Lapoma, and Jeff Donahoe. And we will start with points of pride.
Sure. The one thing I wanted to note is I really wanted to thank Christine and Emily in the town clerk's office. They've been very busy giving out transfer station permits. So it was posted last Tuesday at 11 a.m. And by the end of the day, they had given out over 100. And the next day it was 150, and we're staying not quite that many. So they have cheerfully taken that on and are giving or continue to do that and giving those out. So I think it's been a good thing.
Good. All right. Anything else?
I guess I just would like to recognize the town employees that had to work outdoors in the that heat spell.
Mm-hmm.
It was a real challenge.
All right. Next up, we have administrative. So first is approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda of July 22nd, 2024.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right. Approval of the public meeting minutes from July 8th, 2024.
So moved.
Second. Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. And approval of non-public meeting minutes from July 8th, 2024, session 1, and those are
Sealed.
sealed.
I'll move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstained.
Okay. And approval of non-public meeting minutes from July 8th, 2024, session 2.
I'll move and note they are not sealed.
Second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Thank you. So first up, we have 3 public appointments. First is the Open Space Committee and the signing of the Sweat Trail easement. So, Lucia, do you want to say a few words on behalf of the Open Space Committee? All right.
Neil is going to pull up a map just so you can see, but I'm Lucia Kittredge and I'm on the Open Space Committee and I'm also the chair of the Trails Committee.
Will you just speak into a mic so we can pick you up on the, thank you. Otherwise, I think either one should be good. That way that people can hear you online.
Okay. So I'm Lucia Kittredge on the Open Space Committee and also chair of the Trails Committee. I just wanted to give you just a little context so you appreciate what a wonderful, generous gift this is that Tim Sweat is granting to the town. This is a map of the Hopkinton Village Greenway, which is now almost 11 years old. But when the Open Space Committee first had the concept of creating a trail around the village, we said, let's connect the properties that the town has already protected. So Kimball Lake, the Ransmeyer piece, you see the aqueduct lot up there, a piece you may not know by that name, but the trail goes over it. Ransmeyer Woods and Hawthorne Forest. And then there were a couple of class 6 roads that allowed us to link these properties. But there was one glaring gap over private land, and that belonged to Tim Sweat and his wife, who is now deceased, Bonnie. So Rob Knight, who's on the Open Space Committee, and I screwed up our courage, and we went to approach the Sweats. And when we talked about this trail idea, they said, what a great idea. We had this idea, but we didn't know who to talk to. So right from the beginning, it's been a great relationship. And I'm really, really pleased that Tim has agreed now to make this a permanent trail easement that will run with the land. It will be registered at the county, the Registry of Deeds, and whoever owns the property in the future will have to honor this trail. So I also just want to quickly point out that it goes over private land and connects from the Ransmeyer Woods to Old Stagecoach Road, if you can see that section, kind of at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, if you think of that as a circle. And it comes out right across from the Sweat preserve, which is owned by Five Rivers Conservation Trust. And that was purposeful to locate it that way. And that preserve was given by the wife of Tim's uncle in his memory. So the Sweat family has been incredibly generous to this town, and just wanted to make sure we were here to honor that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucia.
Well, what you signing? You ready to sign?
All right. Am I signing this? Okay.
Tim should sign it.
Need documentation.
Yeah.
Signature.
Thank you, by the way.
Neil's the notary. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think Sabrina and Tim.
Great.
Map pointing out in section.
Oh.
If that's
In front of the map.
Oh, got the map back.
Why don't we have more members? There you want? Yeah. Members.
One more than her.
Yeah. Yeah.
The building precinct plan, the whole state.
Gather around. Gather.
No, I don't. But thank you.
Please. You're part of the trails.
I've got a lot of trees on. Okay, you gotta get a lot more friendly.
It's a good thing we allotted a half hour.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, no, it's not Rob. I was like, wait, did you say Dog or Rob? I was like, Rob. We couldn't see you from afar.
Yeah.
Our dogs are.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, they get obnoxious on the leash. Thank you. Thank you, open space people.
You. It's pretty cool.
I know. It's really great. Well, yes, we do have a little time here, although I don't know if, can we move up a public appointment or should we wait until 6 if they're here? Do you need to wait? Does it matter?
Probably up to them.
Anna, do we have everyone we need for your? Do you want to move up?
Shannon, who's one of the, she's raising her.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Is Shannon one of the? UNH?
Yes.
From UNH, yeah.
Great. And I'm gonna move her over.
Hello.
Hey everyone, good evening.
Hey, Shannon.
Hey Anna. Are you okay to start a little early?
Sure, no, this is great. I just didn't know with the webinar function if I could share, but this is great. So I just got to make sure I can pull up my slide. Just give me 1 second.
While she does that, I will get us started. Thanks for seeing us this evening. Economic Development Committee is here to talk about Tookie, which we all know and love. And there will be at least two portions of what we're talking about. Shannon Rogers is with the UNH Extension in the Economic Development Group. She's a nature economy specialist. Very cool. And so she'll talk about the program that we did in conjunction with conservation, what was formerly the Kentucky Chamber and EDC. We've split that 3 ways and engaged their services for a program called Downtowns and Trails, which is apropos given the permanent trail easement that just occurred. So that's great. I'm glad to be here on that same night. So Shannon will do her portion, and then in conjunction, Ian and I will talk about another process that we went through, which are walk audits. Back in April, we presented this same dog and pony show to a crowded room of about 30 people at the Slusser Center, just folks who were interested in these projects and folks who had participated. There was a steering group for Downtowns and Trails, and there were participants for the walk audits and others from UNH as well. So unless you have any early questions, I will pass it over to Shannon to get us started.
Great. Can everyone see the slides that I'm sharing? Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm doing it through our Teams file. So let's just make sure. Okay, good. Okay, advance. Yeah, no, great. Thanks so much, Anna. And thank you to the Select Board for having us tonight. So happy to be able to share this work again. Like Anna said, we had a great event back in April with a really enthusiastic group. And so it's nice to share some more. So I'll just give you a kind of condensed version of that process where I'll talk generally about what the Downtowns and Trails program is, and then I'll dive into what we did in Hopkinton in particular, and then be happy to answer any questions. So, and yes, it seems very appropriate to be going after that great trail dedication donation. Congratulations to your community. All right. So I think we have been hearing a lot more that outdoor recreation is a large part of both our national and New Hampshire economy. Nationally, it's over $1 trillion industry now, which is pretty big money. That is right up there with some of the bigger industries that you might think of. It's more than kind of oil and gas, amazingly, in other areas like construction. But this has only been a particular satellite account of business and economic affairs for since 2017. So still pretty new to be keeping track of outdoor rec, but it really helps us, I think, to kind of think about trails and out in natural spaces as economic drivers in our communities, which is Anna has been doing a great job of highlighting. So yeah, just some data on New Hampshire. It is a growing part of our economy. It's growing faster than other sectors. But we also know that there is quite a bit of benefit and value we get from trails that may not be quantified easily in economic figures. So quality of life benefits, this connection to transportation and walkability, those are all really great benefits as well. And so we at UNH Cooperative Extension about 5 years ago saw a growing need among many communities across the state to help them better connect their downtown economic development goals with trails. I mean, most communities have a trail or multiple trails, whether it could be a greenway, a blue way, such as a river. You guys have both and more. So that, lots of communities have these great natural resources that they're very proud of and have fostered and taken care of. But they also have downtowns in need of, revitalization or just attention in terms of supporting the community and the economy. So we went through and did a really, research-based approach to trying to figure out the best way to support New Hampshire communities and came up with this Downtowns and Trails program. So we go through this 5-step process. I'm not going to get into every detail, but really just to show you that there's multiple ways that we look at better connecting a downtown with its trail and when working with the community. Like Anna said, establishing the steering committee is the biggest part. We train and educate that extension. That's what we do. And so working with volunteers is the best part of our jobs. And really because your community will carry on, whatever. We can't stay in every community all the time. So this really builds capacity. And we look at multiple types of data, spatial data, interviews, surveys, and really what we're looking at are these assessment characteristics. These, again, all based on lots of research and data of trail towns and vibrant communities across the US. But really, there's certain factors that are important to consider. The ones that are kind of over here with the shaded background are really critical for downtown and trail or trail town type community. Really looking at that trailhead, the pathway from the trailhead to your downtown. You want to get people to, if they're coming to use a trail, to then come into your downtown and spend money or vice versa. But there's going to be a logical way to get there. And the trailhead's got to tell you what's going on, either at the trail or in the town or both ideally. And, downtown entrance, overnight accommodations, restrooms comes up a lot, and then just businesses that people would like to frequent and spend money at. So we assessed all these characteristics and more. And really for the first time, which was very cool to do in Hopkinton because you have the river, we added 3 characteristics about a river town. And this was we had done analysis and research of other river towns across the US and looked at some of those features that might be important. And again, I do just want to say about the steering committee that Anna helped us put together. It was the most diverse one we had worked with in our communities. We've worked in 4 communities thus far over the past 5 years, and just to see the representation across the community from different perspectives was really impressive. So yeah, these Rivertown characteristics were added in to give us a sense. And then just to give you a broader sense of the Downtowns and Trails program, like I said, over the past 4 years, interrupted and modified throughout COVID, we have worked in 4 different communities. So these are long-term programs. We've been, able to work with Anna for about 1.5 years, which is great. And we've trained and worked with, a great number of volunteers, helped to leverage over $350,000 in grants and projects in those communities and set up collaborations and other outreach. So it's been an exciting program, and we were so glad that Hopkinton could be part of it. So that's your kind of broader context. Why does this matter? Why is it important? And now let's just talk specifically what we did in Hopkinton. And I should mention too that my colleague, Mike Polizzotti, was also involved heavily in this project. He was our Merrimack County field specialist in community and economic development up until a few weeks ago. Sadly, Mike has left us. We're happy for him, but good, not so great for our team, but he's gone on to just another position within the state working at a planning commission. So he's very excited about that, and he's staying in contact. But just giving you a sense of the process, right? We talked a little bit about partnering, creating that steering committee, doing trainings, looking at data, analyzing the data, and doing community engagement, and really thinking about the next steps, which I think is what we're, excited to talk about today. Just to give you a sense of where we looked, we can't look at every town and every trail, so we have communities decide on 1 or 2. We decided to zoom in on the Kentucket Village part because that is kind of your main commercial area, a business district, and then also looked at 2 trails, kind of the areas between the Little Tookie Trail and then the Stevens Rail Trail. So we did a big assessment of kind of all those characteristics that I was showing you before. Was great. The steering committee kind of crowdsourced all this data with a great mobile application that we have. We also had paper versions available and just looked at all those characteristics, rated them an asset or an opportunity if they needed improvement, and then filled out some observations and took pictures. And that was a great event and nice way to get community members out and about. And we learned a lot about the community doing it. I think others did as well. So you see, we collected a lot of information, interesting data. We then put together a survey and did some key informant interviews, which are really like kind of with key stakeholders in the community. But the survey was open to everyone, visitors, residents, and shared that around town. Here's just a few pieces of data from that, just asking folks if they have been on a trail or in the river in Hopkinton or Kentucket, like within the last month. A good portion, 2/3 had been, so that's pretty exciting to hear. Most were very satisfied with it. Also, most were very satisfied with, the village center. In the key informant interviews, these were longer conversations. We kind of looked at different questions about better connecting the trails in the town with the business district. What were some opportunities? Things that came up were, kind of ideas for maybe new businesses. Connectivity came up a lot, walkability, maintenance, safety, and making that better connection for trails and river access. So those were some highlights. And then Mike and myself, we hosted a kind of engagement session where we were at the farmers market last July, which was great, and got feedback from folks in person kind of through this, using sticky notes and telling us kind of, what types of businesses would they like to see, and also what are they currently doing in the village center? Why do they come into town? So some great data from that. And then, yeah, I know I'm flying through this, but I didn't think I had a lot of time. So I just want to share some of the key findings. Your community has significant assets and a lot of pride, which is just really wonderful to see, including things like the Riverway Park, your existing trails, the businesses, the public events, and more. Opportunities that kind of came out from all those different data points was looking to revamp the community boat launch so it was a little more accessible and not as steep. Thinking about kind of year-round restroom opportunities for both residents and visitors. Wayfinding and signage, so just really meaning like, where are things in conjunction to other things? How do I get to the businesses from the trail? How do I get to the downtown from the trail? And vice versa. How do we find the trails from downtown? Connectivity and walkability came up a lot, just thinking about sidewalks or the crosswalks or lack thereof, or if a sidewalk ended, or kind of accessibility getting up to the area like where Indigo Blues is. And then just thinking about, are there more types of businesses that could come in? So we know when we do this that communities have so many different priorities that they have to consider when they're making decisions. We try to, fit our work into different types of recommendations. Obviously, it's up to the community to do whatever it sees fit. But we just tried to, combine these into areas that maybe are a little lower hanging fruit, short term, could be done a little more rapidly than some of the longer term ones. So some of the short-term recommendations is maybe thinking about some signage work, thinking about promotion. There is a great website that we do work with, a nonprofit called Trail Finder, that allows you to put both your trails and your businesses on for free to promote them. So it's really nice if people are trip planning and trying to figure out, okay, I want to go to this trail, but then what else am I going to do in the community or the region? Oh, I see this business here, or I see this overnight accommodation opportunity. So it can help them put together their plans. And then just maybe some, maintenance and cleanup. In general, we see that in every community. And then these longer term ones, right? So kind of some key infrastructure, safety and accessibility. And I think Anna will talk a bit more about this as well. It was neat that our work was going on kind of simultaneously, but we didn't share our findings until the end. So there are, lots of things to think about in terms of improved crosswalks, sidewalks, roadway design, but just even things like trash receptacles, public restrooms, I know can be challenging, but that is a big need. And it's a nice way to keep people in town. Because if they can't find a bathroom, they're going to go to another, community and stay there and spend their money there. Water fountains and benches. And then thinking about creating, sustaining, and improving other built assets. So that's where the boat launch comes in. Maybe even more public spaces along the river. It's such a great asset that you have. And at the same time, thinking about incorporating additional spaces for arts. Even maybe there was a great recommendation, like, if there's a way to do that kind of along the river as well. Lots of things to think about. There are a bunch of grants out there. They can be hard to figure out if, you're eligible or what the opportunities are. So just thinking about that long term. And then, yeah, I think that's it for now. Happy to take any questions. We always want to give a huge shout out to all our volunteers that worked to collect the data with us and supported the project. And the original funding for the development of this project came from the Northeast Regional Center for Rural Development, which is supported by USDA. And if folks wanted to see the full report, you can scan that with your phone or go to the web link there, and also happy to provide that. So I can stop sharing now and see if there's any questions, or maybe Anna wants to go.
Thank you, Shannon. Does anyone have questions initially for Shannon before we move on to the next part? And I'll just say really quickly, so this effort came out of a conversation that I initially had with the Trails Committee. Trails Committee, Lucia reached out and said, is there a way that we want to heighten the awareness of the trails coming from the village? And that was and I was like, oh, this is great. Let me look into this. Like, how can we, encourage? So this program exists already, that we can look at this, and using UNH's expertise was a really great fit, obviously, to highlight that. And it's all in the name of vibrancy in Kentucky and making those connections. So
That was going to be my question, is how are we one of the few towns on this list? But that's good to know.
yeah, so the other towns are Bristol, Ossipee, and Keene that they've worked in so far. And now we join this illustrious list. It's pretty great.
Any other questions from the select board? Okay. Thank you for that. That was great.
Okay, so kind of concurrently, as we were going through the process of Downtowns and Trails with Shannon and Mike, yes, we do miss him. He's wonderful. We also wanted to kind of take one of the slivers that they talked about in Downtowns and Trails, which is the actual pedestrian infrastructure in terms of access and safety. And part of that rose out of what we heard from our local business owners downtown, that these things need to be addressed. There were issues of accessibility and maintenance that all of our folks who visited the downtown and work there recognize. So AARP had what they called a micro grant to engage in walk audits. So we'll get into a little bit more about what that means, but this was essentially a technical assistance grant. They provided materials, they provided some training, and this we sought out in conjunction with Alicia Presti, also miss her very much as well, our former Human Services Director. And hopefully our new Human Services Director will maybe think about some of the same things. But, in Kentucky, we have one of our only affordable elderly housing complexes, and where Human Services, Alicia did a lot of work there, in our senior center and all that, those kinds of things. So this felt like a good way to kind of really closely examine our infrastructure there. So I guess the way we'll do it is just ask you to advance. Great.
The clicker seems to have disappeared.
Oh, darn. And it is a PDF. So yeah, great. Perfect. So I'm gonna hand it over to Ian at this point to cover a little bit of background, and then I'll get into kind of the technical nitty-gritty of what we did for the walk audits. So
Good evening, everyone. Ian Hart, Chair of the Economic Development Committee. So when people take the trails to the town, where are they going? Whether they're getting out of their canoe, off their ATV or snowmobile, getting off their bike, or parking and walking. It's, Kentucky Village is a cultural center, as you know, of the town. So many attractions and services within a half-mile radius, plus the river, plus the various trails. So we were looking at this, and but there were challenges, as Anna referred to on the next slide, that businesses had been bringing up to us prior to supplying for this grant, including the cracked sidewalks, lacks of sidewalks, inaccessible areas in the town. It says here long crossing distances, but sometimes crosswalks where it seems like we need them, or crosswalks that are there that you might not even see, whether you're walking or driving. Next slide. So why does this matter for the Economic Development Committee? Number of reasons. Next slide. The commercial areas that are more walkable are more economically productive. This is well tested and well understood at this point, which not only is, so the more economically productive your area is, the higher your tax base and the higher tax value per acre, which is one of our motivating forces of the Economic Development Committee. Next slide. When it comes to attracting businesses to town, it's shown that places that are more walkable have a competitive advantage over places that are not. Whether it's for lunch breaks, for employees, or places where employees would want to live, quality of life is a huge factor in determining siting of a business, and the people who would like to work at those businesses. Next slide. So business retention and attraction strategies, that's right up the Economic Development Committee's alley. And in addition to improving the local economy and increasing the non-residential tax base for the town, it brings in those harder to quantify benefits that we were hearing about, including individual health, environmental quality, and the sort of sense of community, identity of community, and of course a desire of safety for the people who live, work, play, and learn in Hopkinton and Kentucky Village specifically. And I'll turn it over to Anna.
okay, so if we know all of this, why don't we just fix it? The answer to that question is that it's complicated. These are two state roads that come together in Kentucky Village, 103 and 127. This is an area known as Fountain Square, and this area is now, assuming there's, I think, just one more signature on this 10-year plan. Hopefully it's still in there. It is. DOT is set to address functionality at this intersection in the next iteration of the 10-year plan. So that is a 2025 to 33-ish plan. And, like every other agency, DOT is not rolling in money. And so DOT will they will plan the basics. And if there's more to their plan that we would like to see as residents, we need to advocate for that. And in order to do that, we need to document what are the things that we care about and would like to see in the plan. When the intersection went into the plan, it did include complete streets elements like sidewalks, crosswalks. But if we are able to document this and show that we care about it, that will be prioritized more highly. And we will be able to use this information, both from downtowns and trails and these walk audits, to go for additional dollars for that kind of amenity that's so important in our village. So we decided to utilize this walk audit process through AARP's Community Challenge Micro Grant. The process is fairly simple. You identify things that are unwalkable, unsafe. It's, you know, doing that SWOT analysis for your walkability, gather, document these observations, and then advocate ultimately for what you'd like to see. So AARP provides some great documentation, some worksheets. We'll go pretty fast through this, but we conducted, Alicia is in many of these photos. She was a great partner in all of this. 4 walk audits, you know, anywhere from up to a dozen participants. We had young participants as well as folks that would qualify for AARP. Okay. Just a quick thank you to everyone who was involved. The first route was, so they all met at the bandstand at the gazebo in the park. And then the first route, we just stayed really local, looked right around Fountain Square. Next slide. The second one, we walked out Park Ave to the post office, to the Park Avenue apartments and back. Third was down Main Street out to Smithfield Road, starting out the village up the hill that way and back. And then we did the triangle, the Maple Street, Cedar Street triangle. So these are just some examples of the worksheets. All of the participants got these worksheets to fill out and document what they saw. What did we observe? Obstacles, lots of them, obstacles to walking. So actual safety and the feeling of safety, which is just as important when you want folks to get out and walk and use your infrastructure. Access, meaning like, can you get where you want to go? And accessibility, if you have any sort of mobility issues, can you get where you want to go? Road crossings that were rather difficult and not so great signage and wayfinding. So we can really buzz through these like 1 second per slide, but I pulled together a lot of the photos to show some of the, within these categories, some of the actual factors that contribute to that. So no sidewalks in places, unprotected, so no barrier, no, not even a curb. Poor condition of sidewalks, sloping, cracked, narrow, fast speeds, unmarked crossings, so places where it felt natural that you'd want to cross, but there was no break in the lines, there was no painted crosswalk. More of those. Crossings that were rather long, so long stretches of pavement, kind of dodging cars. No bike lanes or markings at all. And then on the access and accessibility front, obstacles in the sidewalk, whether that's a car, a telephone pole, stairs, drainage, puddles, cracked, narrow slope sidewalks, again, kind of a barrier to accessibility, no curb ramps. And places that you really want to get to, beautiful overlooks that you can't get to because it feels very dangerous to cross in that particular spot. So here we are checking out this gorgeous view of the river, and there's a mother and child running across the street to try to get over to this beautiful spot from the pizza shop. Road crossings that can be difficult. So meaning, again, unmarked crossings. No faded crossings or ones that are hard to see, no signage. Again, curb ramps, making it tough. And then signage was also something that we noticed was definitely lacking. Long crossings again. So a lot of these, as you can see, overlap greatly. So, and then finally the signage and wayfinding. So pretty important to know where you're going. So crossing signage was difficult and lacking. Really, really tiny signs. It's great that they're there and they're sort of uniform, but I don't know if you could, on the right picture going into the cemetery, the trail actually goes through the cemetery. If you're walking down Main Street out of Kentucky Village, you're looking for that trail, you can't even see that sign. It is on that post, but it's really, really tiny. And then inconsistent or no signage at all, kind of in hidden places. So again, we will provide you a copy of this presentation so that you can look at all of these on your own. I'm not going to read them all. So if you just advance, there's one that's a little bit bigger. And there were lots of great comments from people. So this one was my favorite though. This is from our police chief, TJ. He said he was almost embarrassed at the condition of lack of, he wrote up a great page for me. He was embarrassed at the condition or lack of sidewalks, and he thought the walkability as a whole was deplorable. Not great. Not a great glowing endorsement from our, public safety police chief here. Okay, so what do? We know we have obstacles to walking, so we need to fix them. It sounds really simple, and it kind of, in a way, it is. We know what the obstacles are, we know what the problems are, and we can identify solutions. So that part's really easy. Keep going. For each of these problems that we've identified, there's a pretty clearly identifiable solution. So again, you can just like buzz through these next couple of slides. We need to add sidewalks. We need to fix sidewalks. We need to add curb ramps. We need to provide access to viewpoints. So there's all of these elements. Problems have solutions. So there's at least 11 different items. So where it gets more tricky is that we know these are the interventions that we need to fix walkability in Kentucky, but there isn't a single straightforward strategy to get there. It takes money, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes coordination. So this is why we're here. So we talk a lot about these issues around Kentucky Village at EDC. And the recommendation that the committee has landed on is that these efforts need to be aligned, streamlined, and coordinated. So there are, at the moment, 4 ongoing recent efforts: downtowns and trails, which Shannon presented, these walk audits, which I just told you about, the 10-year plan process through DOT, which I mentioned a little bit as well. And recently, a citizen group has come together to talk about ways to improve Riverway Park. There are, we can stay on that one. There are other upcoming opportunities as well. As Shannon mentioned, there are grant opportunities out there, and we are keeping our eye on those. Transportation Alternatives Program is coming back, and so this is additional dollars for sidewalks and trails and that kind of thing. That's coming, that's like been on a 4-year cycle with the state. That's coming back this fall. There are, private corporations that provide grants. T-Mobile has a decent one for community spaces. So there's a lot going on in and around Kentucky Village that is in need, I think, of some coordination. And that is kind of why we decided at this moment to come to you as the select board. We really feel that there needs to be an entity of some sort that is tasked with bringing all of these different things together around Kentucky Village. And that's a discussion point, of course. We're not telling you that that's exactly what needs to happen, but I think this is kind of in our discussions as we bandied about these ideas, that's where the committee landed, that they wanted to kind of pause on all of these things that had been going on and bring this to you for your advice and your leadership, and so that you can kind of be the 10,000 foot view and kind of help us coordinate this kind of thing. And it, you have anything to add? And I should acknowledge Stephen as well as on Economic Development Committee, if you have anything to add. We have Jim Fredima is here as well from Economic Development. Yeah. So that is that.
Thank you for that. It's very helpful. So would the EDC be the entity to do the ongoing coordination, or are you looking for like an alternative?
I think we're looking for an alternative.
Okay.
I mean, it could be, but we, as you know, this is not the only thing that we are doing. And, we have water and sewers moving along. I have really wanted to get down to writing the RFI for the Hearts Cornerland. There are a lot of things that are going on. Other than this, I think EDC would certainly have a strong role and would really appreciate continuing to be part of this because it is squarely within our mission. But it doesn't necessarily feel like, given our bandwidth and capacity, that it could be all the EDC's task.
I have a basic and practical question, since this largely involves state roads.
Yep.
Are we able to like if we wanted to refresh one of the crosswalks, are we allowed to do that? Or like, does everything have to be through?
No, they do.
Oh,
Yeah.
We do the sidewalks,
Mhm.
the
the
crosswalks.
crosswalks. Okay. And then the sidewalks, if we wanted to, could we just decide we wanted to upgrade them? Or is that like something the state has to?
You can't just decide you want to do it, but yes, you can work through the state's process.
Okay.
Does the state build it?
No,
They would build it, like I said, through their 10-year plan process. They would incorporate. So as they work on engineering, which again is still like probably 4 at least years out, they will do kind of the basics. If they're removing a sidewalk, they'll maybe replace the sidewalk, maybe. But in term, I don't think that they would necessarily add sidewalks or, it's all part of the process that the constituents have to advocate for those things, if those are things that we want.
and if they're doing an intersection, they're going to do the intersection.
Yeah,
They're not going
they're
to
Not doing
go
the.
They're focused,
beyond that.
they're focused on primarily vehicular traffic. There are some complete streets elements to this, meaning not just vehicular users, but all users of the roadway. So including, walking, biking.
So if we wanted to put like bike lanes in, for example, I'm not suggesting we do that, but like if we wanted to do that, that's something we could go to the state and say, we want to put, okay. And then what about the existing sidewalks, which they are sort of, I appreciate that a lot of them are in disrepair and there's oftentimes no connection, but are the sidewalks that exist something the town did, or would that have been something the state put in like a long time ago?
Most of what's there, the
We did.
town did, and the town
Maintained.
plows them and clears them in the winter.
Okay.
Yeah, no matter who builds them,
We
the town
maintain.
will ultimately
Yeah.
be responsible for maintenance.
Mhm. Okay. And then one last question, if we, like, there's a place, I remember in the audit I was part of, there's a spot from the Everyday Cafe, sort of over to Mr. Mike's, but I think there's like no sidewalk on one side, but if we wanted to put in a crosswalk there, for example, again, that's something we could go advocate to the state or.
You need to have a place to come from and to. So unless there's a sidewalk, sidewalk on each side, because
can't.
we have asked for that and that was the response.
In the
They
state.
won't,
Okay.
they won't put a crosswalk from a sidewalk
That
to a
goes to
park.
nowhere.
Mhm.
But if
You have
we-
to have some place to go.
Okay, but if we said we want to put in a sidewalk here, then potentially we could. Okay.
Yes.
all
And
right.
probably get permission to put in a crosswalk then,
Mhm.
because that is a logical crossing spot.
Oh,
And there is a curb ramp on the side with the sidewalk, but that curb ramp dumps you out into the street with no crosswalk.
yeah.
So,
Other questions from the board or comments?
I guess in the initial presentation, there was talk about signage to go to the trails.
Yeah.
Is that some low hanging fruit that could be done sooner as opposed to later?
yeah, I think that's a great point. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
does the committee have suggestions on what kind of signs and how many and where they should go?
We do not, and that would, need to happen in coordination with the Trails Committee as well to coordinate and be consistent with what they already have existing. And Concord Lake Sunapee Rail Trail as well, because that really does run right through our downtown. So that consistency is important, and it would take that coordinating effort between all those entities.
So were the board to appoint a task force or a working group, for instance, having somebody from economic development, somebody from open space and trails, it would be, it would make sense to sort of create like a formal coordinating group on that. That's sort of talking to the different committees.
So if you guys in a perfect world, would you suggest another committee that brings these various groups together and sort of oversees moving forward with this? Or is there some other idea you have for like what would be? Like if you could just create
Is the,
a path
is the
forward.
Complete Streets Committee not active?
They are not active.
Exists?
It still exists in theory, because their mission was never fulfilled. So it still exists. It's still out there. And that is definitely, in my mind, a large part of what needs to happen here. But it's not everything that's going on in Kinchukuk. So that would be a big factor, but wouldn't necessarily be the group, I don't think, to do all of it.
We also have a roads committee too, right? Hasn't,
It's
So
not-
there's Highway Safety Committee, which, so roads was disbanded and replaced essentially with Highway Safety Committee. And that's still in its nascent stages. So
And then it needs to meet.
I'm not looking at you. Sabrina. Nope.
So do you have thoughts on my sort of big picture question? Or are you really looking for us to like come up with, like, I'm just curious in your, like in a
Yeah.
perfect world, what would it look like for us moving forward?
I mean, yes, I have thoughts. I would love this to be more like, I don't know, I would love to know what you all think, but I guess, since you're asking. I think, so I've looked to other communities who have similar, downtowns that are in need of a little bit of sprucing up, and there are several around the region, the state, that have, the Jaffrey Downtown Revitalization Committee or the Belmont Downtown Revitalization Committee. It's so that they fall under kind of that category of like revitalization. So I think, to not reinvent the wheel, that's kind of the direction that I think we were thinking.
Yeah, the Economic Development Committee has discussed this over several meetings. That's where we landed to, is not trying to own this ourselves. But sort of-
Bring in other stakeholders.
Yes, make it much more of a collaborative, cooperative effort. And recognizing that there's also already a group looking at Riverway Park and wanting to make sure that they're what they are looking at, and their ideas are getting view as well.
I missed the last EDC meeting, so this may have been discussed a little bit then, but I mean, just sort of thinking out loud, the groups that have been mentioned so far that seem to have some sort of interest in this. I mean, if we pulled one person from each of those, that'd be a 7-person sort of steering committee, for lack of a better word. And that would be someone from EDC, open space and or trail, Lake Sunapee Rail Trail, the select board, perhaps, complete streets, highway safety, and then the Riverway Park group.
Yeah, but why would, I mean, most of those are already on complete streets, so why wouldn't it just be complete streets?
Yeah.
Like if complete streets hasn't met in a long time,
Mhm.
Pre-COVID, certainly.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I honestly don't remember the roster of the people who are on complete
A
streets.
few of them have left town.
Some in the audience, yes.
That committee was too big to function.
Ah.
I think.
Is it still, was it like an officially recognized
It
town?
was, and then I think Anna chaired it, but I think it stopped meeting, so I'm not sure what.
Prior to, yeah, pre-COVID, I think I was on the select board at the time and pulled this group together to formulate some sort of complete streets resolution, policy, ordinance, something. It was a good group, and they did, despite being large, they did get to a place where, I mean, there is a draft policy that exists for complete streets. And there's good representation, yep, on that group. That is true. But I guess I'd be curious if that group would have the interest in these other elements of what we're talking about, like, the park.
Because that was its own committee with its own mission, which is
Exactly.
slightly different from what we're talking about, like more of like a steering committee or Yeah. with people from each of these different groups.
But to Thomas's point, it might be a good starting place to get the roster and reach out and see if those people are interested, and maybe we can put it together that way.
I also think we have to look carefully at staffing
Hmm.
because a committee like this, a lot of work falls back on staff. So we need to make sure our priorities are set and where we want staffing to be.
Alternatively, if the select board wanted to be the group to do it, that's also an option.
And then we can bring in various stakeholders as needed to, like, we would say, for example, Economic Development Committee, we recommend that you take on X, Y, and Z, and like maybe Trails needs to take on doing refresh signs or whatever. I don't know. I feel like I've never done something like that before, but
And if that's the case, we seriously need to get staffing.
Throw him right under the bus.
Well, no, but I mean, I think coordinating all the various sort of reports of that, whatever that bullet list was, I think that is going to take a good chunk of staff time.
This is kind of technical that
Yep.
you're not going to expect volunteer committees.
Yeah.
They can do the concepts and the bigger things, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of sort of connecting with all the different players
Yeah.
that would have to make that work.
Yeah, it's true.
have you observed other towns doing this, Neil? Do you have thoughts on? practices
I
or-
haven't really looked to see how they're doing it. Like Jaffrey was mentioned, but Jaffrey's having their work is getting done very soon. They're changing their whole downtown, how 202 comes in and out. They're adding a roundabout and a bridge and all sorts of things. So
Most of that's through the 10-year plan,
is
which is kind of interesting to note that's and there's a ton of streetscape work being done with that as well. So
And what about interfacing with DOT historically? Is that Dan Blanchett or like who's?
it's dependent on the project.
mhm.
Well, maybe since it's 1 minute past our next public appointment,
Yeah.
perhaps we can take a closer look at what you put together and and what UNH put together and
Yeah.
regroup on this and
I can pass along also some of the examples of other places that have done similar efforts. So Belmont, Jaffrey, I mentioned, Wyndham, York, Maine is another. And some of them had, first a study committee and then an implementation committee. So there are a lot of different ways to do it. And so maybe you can check those out and maybe we can come back and now that the formal presentation is done, we can just have a conversation and try to,
Mhm,
hash out what we think the structure might look like.
mhm. Bob, did you have a thought on this or?
Bob Creek. I wanted to mention to Anna and to the board that one of the most hazardous places for walking is in front of I call it the Kirk building, because, there's cars parked diagonally and there's just no way to get around it unless you go out into the traffic and can't use the stairs, have to go all the way around. I would say that probably a simple solution is to turn, as opposed to having angled parking, turn it into parallel parking and leave a marked kind of sidewalk area or, walking area between the cars and the stairs or the concrete. And I think that would be fairly simple to do. I don't even know we'd have to deal with the state on that. And as I recall, I believe it's not appropriate or even legal to back out onto a state highway, which is what we do when we go out. And I mean, that place has always been terrifying to park and then try to get out of. The only safe parking spot is the first one where you can actually see them. So I think that might be something very simple to do, and it would certainly improve the walkability. And I have to use a mobility device. And I have to go all the way around to the covered bridge, which is a little dicey too. So anyway, I'd like to see that as being kind of a good solution, but wouldn't be too hard to pull off.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks for those thoughts.
I know that we have to move on to our next public hearing, but I mean, I just was curious if we're going to circle back to this meeting, we're going to circle back to this in a couple weeks. I didn't know what
I'm also
sort of
planning
thought
to
process
stay,
was.
through the hearing, and I can remain, and we can, if you want to talk about it more tonight, do that. You want to
Okay.
just press pause?
All right. So do you have other things you want to close the loop on or you're just asking?
No, I
Oh,
was just curious
yeah.
if we were not going to do it tonight, I was going to ask for, to try to figure out when it was going to be back before us, just so
Yeah.
it didn't sort of get lost in
Yeah.
all the other
I
stuff
was
going on.
thinking we could take all this stuff back and give it some thought because I don't have any great solutions at the moment, but unless others want, and you guys don't have to stick around for us. If you have
We wanted
other
to,
places
but
to-
we're happy to give you all time to sort of ruminate on this. And there's other things that we want to bring back to the board in the future,
Okay.
not too distant future. So we could
All right.
find a
Good. All
time
right.
for-
Well, unless if you guys are good with that, maybe we can free the EDC folks and
Yeah.
thank you for your time.
And thank you so
thank
much, Shannon, for being on for this. Do you have anything else for Shannon in particular?
No, we
Okay.
appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight.
No, thank you all so much. It's been wonderful to work with Anna and everyone else. So have a good night. Good luck. Keep us
Thank
posted.
you.
Thank you. All right,
All right.
thank
Thank
you all.
you guys. Okay, so we're on to our final public appointment, which is our 6:30 public hearing on the 79E request for 902 Main Street. So we can open up the public hearing, and if anyone wishes to speak, we just need you to come up and speak into one of the mics so that we can pick you up on video. And anyone online, we have one person. If you want to raise your hand, you can be unmuted. Rob, come on up.
Good evening. Thanks for holding the hearing. Thanks for inviting us as members of the public. I'm Rob Dappas. I live at Woodwells Garrison. I'm on the planning board, but I'm just speaking for myself. I think it's a good project. It'd be nice to see the property upstairs turned into apartments. I've seen how difficult it can be to create sort of small scale housing opportunities. So I think 7090 seems like it'd be appropriate in this case. So,
Excellent.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
I'm sure I'll hear the story of that cast tomorrow at the planning board.
Anyone else?
Now, is there any way to integrate that suggestion I have, the parking in front, into this proposal, or?
That's a good question. I don't actually know. I was just thinking, I don't actually know like who controls the park.
It would require,
No man's land.
it kind of is.
Even better.
State asked them if they would. If they would help with the parking and the situation right out in front, that
Mhm.
is called Crumlink Park. And they came out and measured and said it's not their responsibility, but our property ends at the end of the stairs.
Hmm.
So there's some no man's land there. I just think it has to do with the age of the building and how the
Mhm.
property lies. and-
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting.
It
Okay.
will have to be addressed at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe when they do the 10-year plan, that's the appropriate time to do it. But
Okay.
we're here to answer questions if anybody has any questions about the building or the project itself.
Where's the parking for the tenants?
It's in the back of the building.
It is
There's,
around
yeah,
there.
there's six spaces in the back of the building. Which is appropriate for the number of apartments we have. But there's also, public parking further back in the public parking area if needed.
Were you gonna say something, Jeff? I didn't know if you were.
I was just gonna say, the parallel parking idea is interesting, but we would lose half the number of spaces we have there and half of the opposite side, because those are also not parallel parking spaces. And you do back out onto that same highway. That's just an obstacle.
Mhm.
Can I comment to that?
Will you come,
Well,
we're
Mike-
missing all the good conversation if you're not in a mic.
Brian Cressy. I bought the building, the Dibble Law Office building 4 years ago. And since I've had my office in there the last 4 years, I've witnessed a lot, and I see near-death experiences coming through town all the time. So it's music to my ears to hear Anna and everybody talking about, changing the traffic pattern, safety and all that. Just myself personally, I leave my office daily. I walk across town. I walk over the place. I've noticed a lot by having my office down there. So,
Mhm.
I agree with what Bob is saying, changing the parking, although we do, as you say, Jeff, we lose parking spots, but watching people from my desk try to back out of there in front of Indigo Blues and almost get T-boned on a daily basis, it's pretty
Mhm.
dangerous. So and I do like that idea.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Any other comments, questions? All right. I think we,
Can I ask Mike?
Yeah.
Mike, Leanne. Did you created one new unit up on the third floor, right?
Right.
Okay, and then the other three were already there. Maybe not in the quality that they're in or will be in by the time you're done.
Yeah, Mike Vance. Yeah, when we bought the property, there were 3 apartments, 2 of them occupied by single people.
Yep.
Since then, we're hoping to have 4 units, all 4 of them being single bedroom apartments, and having all 4 occupied. So that's
Oh, so you're adding one more. to
we're
the
adding
second
one more
floor.
to the 3 to the top floor.
Oh, okay. I thought
So
the top
that's
floor was
the
up.
add.
Okay.
The 3 on the second floor will be all renovated.
Got it.
New windows, sprinkler system.
Yep.
So when you're done, you'll have 3 on the second floor and 2 on the third floor.
3 on the second, 1 on the third.
Okay, sorry, got it. Thank you.
One of the apartments was not, they declared it not habitable, but we upgraded that since then. Oh, I had this.
Yeah, one of the apartments was not habitable, had leak issues and so forth, and we've upgraded it since then, so it is habitable now.
So I guess we're really adding 2 apartments, because there were only 2 usable apartments.
Any other questions?
This is a process question for Neil, I guess. This sheet that you gave us has three different categories. This application is for substantial rehab tax relief incentive, tax relief incentive for new residential units, tax relief incentive for rehab of historic places in accordance with the Secretary of Interior standards, which I'm sure you're not doing. Because I've worked on those projects. They're not fun. So of the first two, are we picking one or the other?
No, it's additional. So you do the first one
Okay.
and decide if they qualify and decide how many years they qualify for, and then move to the second one and determine if you
Got it. Thank
can
you.
add years.
And this is considered affordable housing? Or,
Yes, I think
Will be.
the limit's what, 1,700 a month, and then we're planning to be affordable housing, so
mhm.
at least the three, the top floor will be my and my wife's house, so that'll be where we're living.
That's the,
We sold our property to move down there and do this.
Mhm. Okay. Any other? Keep going.
I know that you spent, I think you said 130,000 last time on the.
Just on the
Sprinkler
sprinkler system alone.
Sprinkler.
Obviously, it's a 3-story wooden structure, is 175 years old. And part of the building permitting processes, they ask us to put in a sprinkler system, which we have.
And so the rest of the rehab, how much have you spent beyond 130,000? What's your budget,
It'll probably be 750 when we're done,
including or in addition to the sprinkler?
including the sprinkler.
Okay, thank you.
So I think the limit on this rule is 75,000 is what you have to spend. So I think we've exceeded that.
I know you passed that. I just didn't know about that.
So we can close the public hearing and discuss, right, as a board that's processed. Okay, so any last comments or questions from anyone?
Nope.
Yes, please. We need you. That was Alyssa McCann speaking. Anyone online? Oh, we still have one person. Okay. All right. Well, then with that, we can close the public hearing and now we can discuss as board.
My opinion is that there's not a doubt that they qualify for this first substantial rehab tax relief incentive. I guess the point of question for us would be for how long,
Mhm.
assuming everybody else agrees with that they do qualify. You know, how many square feet total is this building? 6,000?
It's roughly 6,000.
It'll be $150 a square foot into the building in rehab costs. Which is a significant investment. We couldn't build it new for that, of course, but for the 175-year-old building, that's a significant investment.
So is it right that this is not, the third one's off the table? That's historic places in accordance with the US Secretary of Interior standards for rehab? Okay, so we are just talking about the first two. Yeah, so I agree. I mean, so the checklist we have is enhances the economic vitality of the designated area, enhances and improves a culturally or historically important structure, promotes development of the designated area, providing for efficiency, safety, and a greater sense of community consistent with RSA 9B, and it increases residential housing in urban or town centers. So yeah, I mean, does anyone disagree that this is
And they're all
to be
yeses.
granted? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Yeah. So we're in agreement on that. So yes, now we have to just figure out the amount of time.
Neil, do we know what the assessed value is on the building now?
No. Do you know the assessed value?
I think it's roughly 450.
That sounds right. I should have
So
included
roughly
the card.
450 for the assessed value. Okay.
So given the fact that they've invested 167% of the value of the assessed value of the building, I'm inclined to go for the maximum if we can. But I'm certainly willing to discuss. This is a much, in my opinion, much different situation than the last 70-90 that was seen,
Mhm.
where it was a developer building the condominiums to sell them.
Yeah.
This is an owner occupant who's invested a significant amount of money. And so I guess if it's 5 years, I would do the 5 years.
It also, you need to meet at least one of those criteria, and you've just decided it meets all four, so I think that puts it in a
The
different
one I don't know
category.
about is the third one, because I don't know what RSA 9B says.
I looked that up at the last meeting. Now I can't remember what it was.
I agree, Jeff, that this is deserving of the
Yeah, I mean,
maximum.
this is the kind of investment we want in the village.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, no, I agree. Sure.
Definitely a building.
And, you know, Brian's sitting back there. I know he's investing a lot of money in his property, and I expect he'll be in here for the same thing in, you know,
Yeah. that'd be great.
2027 when the
Yeah.
building's done. Sorry, Brian.
Okay, so that first one can be up to 5 years, but then for the new residential units,
Yeah, well, I
Because
think we want to
it's-
get through the first one first. and
yeah,
see if
okay,
we
so
Want to add anything onto it? That's.
is
that's a different
everyone in
issue.
agreement on the maximum, which is 5 years?
Yes.
Okay, I think we all agree on that. Okay.
Need a
Um,
formal vote for that, Neil?
I think if you go through it all and then do a formal
Yeah.
vote at the end,
Great.
I'm still just trying to recall what, RSA 9B.
The smart growth, I think at the state level.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, you're right. That's what it is. Thank you, Anna.
In this specific case, how do they define affordable housing? So not just like define it, but how do they require it? So if you do an extra 2 years for affordable housing for the new unit, how would we, and this might be a good question for.
If
audience
only we had
members.
somebody in the audience who
Yeah.
knew a lot about affordable housing.
that's right, you could answer that.
So are you asking like,
So
it could be an additional 2 years, or it could be additional 4 years if it's affordable, which it sounds like it is affordable, but are you asking like,
well, it might not be, but it also, how do you require that? And does if it.
oh, you mean
no
make sure
longer-
that they don't
Right.
like, stuff, right?
Right.
So what happens after you do this is there's an agreement that was part of it that that gets signed. So
Yeah.
all of the specifics are in that agreement.
And that that extra 2 years would only be if that additional unit became affordable housing. So if there was,
No, it's 4 years if it's affordable.
no, it's
Two on top of the first two.
200, yeah, right.
Got
That can't be for if one of the old apartments that got renovated then became affordable housing. So it's for new residential units.
So they've added two. Right, there was one that was declared uninhabitable, and then they added the
Yeah.
one that they're living in.
Well, I guess, so like the extra 2 years. So I'm saying, do all the apartments have to be listed at affordable pricing?
Right.
Right.
And I don't know the answer to that.
I think that would be your call. This says the new unit.
Right, okay.
And then if there's 2 units and one of them's affordable, you could give a year or 2 extra years instead of 4. So I think that's within your
Okay.
jurisdiction, your authority to make those calls.
Yeah, because just a huge portion of the conversation in the housing committee is the lack of housing and certainly affordable housing. And so certainly encouraging more of these rentable units is really great. And if we can do more to incentivize them to be more affordable,
Right.
even better. Just wanted to get the particulars.
Sure. And is it appropriate for us to ask them if they're interested in committing to affordability? Or is that not appropriate?
I think you can ask that because that's certainly part of the decision you're making.
Okay.
How do we There's there's a committee, can I raise my?
You can come speak into the mic so we can hear you.
And I'm sorry.
I have to come up.
Yeah, or else we just can't hear you and it.
Speak to this mic, not that
Can't
mic.
hear myself, so that's. I was gonna ask Anna, because I think we have talked about this. There is somebody who determines what's affordable, correct?
Yes.
So it wouldn't be just these guys.
Right,
Right.
so there's a median for our county. So quickly defer to Rob if he would prefer to answer this question. He is-
Nope, you're doing great.
There's a median rental price. Yes, so it's determined by what the area average rental is. And I think it's an interesting question whether, you write that into this covenant that you're entering into with the town right now.
Right.
Whether you write that into this covenant for the next however many years that you will keep the price below or at
Or
what
at
this-
whatever the
Yes.
state or whatever the committee
affordability
deems, okay.
HUD publishes
Right.
an allowable rent for every county in the country. And so that's, I'd have to look it up. I don't know what it is from Merrimack County off the top of my head, but.
I didn't know if we were just gonna say, oh, that seems affordable.
No, you're not. too much.
But that was. Please.
I think, I've been trying to find it, and I'm not sure, but I think that the law refers to the state workforce housing law and those income limits, which are 60% of area median income. And those would be public. Annually, so I can,
Which percent, Rob? I'm sorry.
60.
60? Okay.
I believe for renters, it's 60% of area median income for, and all those limits are like based on family size, so it's for a 3-person household. So
I don't think the RSA, I don't think the RSA speaks to that. I don't think it does.
maybe the town can decide.
What that,
is.
Yeah.
but maybe someone who's not looking at their phone can look at it.
I think we're not going to make a decision on this piece of it until we all have that list to look at, including, I wouldn't want you to, without knowing what the number is, I don't think you should necessarily decide either.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, I mean, my thought was that Mike and Leanne decide how many of the units they want to be designated as affordable, and then we make a decision based on what they are representing they want to do. And assuming that, well, then that'll be written into the covenants that we all sign and get recorded.
And so
And then if we determine that, does this, who picks, like, do we just say we're renting for X and then whoever we want to rent to, or is this one of those things where you have to go to this? I have to, what?
Don't.
Oh, we don't have to, okay. I'm just wondering how much
So-
work I have to do.
HUD lists Merrimack County 60%, 65% rate limit for a 1-bedroom as 1383 for 2024, based on HUD's 2024 list.
But so just to make sure we're all on the same page of what we're talking about for the second one. So there's 2 new units. So we could do, whether they're affordable or not, we could do 2 additional years for each of those units. Do we know, is that how, or just over just
No,
the 2?
if it's,
Okay.
if it's.
For this
Can I simplify this a little bit? Because we vote on whether we grant it, and then we still have to have like the agreement listed out.
Correct.
So we could say for the additional 2 years for the new residential units, and then pending and
If they
like
make it
a proposal by the applicant for affordable housing, an additional 2 years if the select board accepts it.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
then we
Yes,
can-
because they would qualify for the 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can just say, that one, and then if there's an acceptable proposal for affordable housing that we all agree on, then we could do the 4 years.
That makes sense.
Sounds good.
Great. Sorry for mixing that up.
So should we, so I think overall the application is granted. Now it's just contingent on that, the 2-year question.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, the second, well, I guess I'm still unsure of how many of the units you guys would want to be rented. to try to qualify for affordable housing? All of them, one of them?
So that's what I'm saying though, is I'd say based on the fact that there is new units being put in and that's all
Right.
great, we should do the 2 years.
Yep.
And then if they want to come up with a proposal for an affordable housing scenario, and it could be however many units at whatever price or whatever, and then if that's presented to us and we say that's great, then it would be the additional 2 years after that.
So we.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing.
So we're saying 7 years and maybe.
9.
more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Up
this
to
would be a
9.
commitment to 7 years, and then beyond that, affordable housing would be additional years
Maybe 2
beyond
more.
the 7.
Yeah, so 9 would be the max.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so do we need to, can we make a motion to accept this granted tax relief contingent on?
Yeah, I think if you move,
I move that we approve the 79E exemption for 7 years with the select board opportunity to extend it 2 additional years based on agreement of a proposal from the property owner to the board regarding affordable housing for those last 2 years.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye,
Aye.
it's unanimous.
Can I ask just one clarifying? Do we also need to specify the public benefits that we determined as part of a vote? Because I think we have to state which of the public benefits have.
yeah, so if you add those
Satisfied.
4 into the motion,
Yeah, so I'll just make a motion that this application satisfies each of the 4 public benefits.
All right, all those in favor? Aye, that's unanimous. Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work you've put in. And thank
So
you.
we're gonna hear more from you guys and then finish our part. Yeah.
and we'll put in writing all of that so it's clear
Oh,
to
great.
everybody too, that this is sort of the requirements.
We'll make you sign 17 things when you come back.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, guys, thanks.
Thank you to everyone who showed up for this. Okay, do we have anything under old business? Here's we do not. Okay. So new business, year-to-date revenues / expenses.
All right. We are halfway through the year. Can you believe it?
Yikes.
I cannot. All right. Okay, on revenue, just sort of an overview. In general, we're actually in where we would expect to be. Under the land use change tax, the conservation fund transfer has already been made. The pilots aren't showing, but they've been billed. Motor vehicle permits are running slightly ahead. That's one that we always watch. That's pretty good. I think probably the price of cars is helping that. Room and meals payments from the state, which is budgeted at $400,000.
People in
Is
the audience.
Can you guys?
It's okay. It's hard to talk and concentrate from where Neil is.
distracting me.
Thanks for being here.
Room and meals, which we budgeted at 400,000, always comes in December, generally the last week of December. Flood control money should be here at any time. Under other state grants, it looks like it's way over. That actually, most of that is $70,000 from the rail trail grant, the piece that connected Houston with Kearsarge Avenue that got paid in this year, even though the expense was last year. That was carried as a receivable, so that will come out of there. income from departments, planning board did receive over $2,000 the first week in July, so that's a little better than it looks right there. So that's running pretty close to where it should. Building permits are definitely running behind. It's budgeted at 55,000 and it's only at 20. Well, as of today, it's at 23,500. I went back and looked, and in 2023, we took in 58,500. In 22, it was 61,500, and 21 was 49, and 20 was 49. So I think the budget was a pretty accurate budget, but it looks like we definitely are running behind. Warner and Webster have been billed for ambulance in July, so those payments will be in there. Under landfill refuge disposal, Webster Q2 bill went out and Warner has been billed for the first half. Commercial is definitely running behind, but the new rates will certainly help. I think when we did the budget, we thought the new rates would take effect sooner. Recycling revenue is about where it's supposed to be. Actually, quite a bit went out this week, so that we're going to see that go up. And in the paperwork, you have the 45,000 from the pay by bag revenue fund hadn't been transferred. That actually, you just, I assume with the consent agenda, you signed that, so that will happen. So that will be in there. Sale of municipal property is really timing. We should meet the estimate. Interest on investment is doing very, very well. We've actually already met the budget halfway through the year, so that's going to come in over budget. We will start spending. We've had the $2 million bond money, which we'll start spending. We haven't spent any of that yet, but that will start as the bills come in on Briar Hill. Rents on properties is up because Kentucky Hydro was higher than expected, and miscellaneous revenue, we haven't done a TIF transfer yet, and the Elidhar Trust hasn't come in. So in general, for revenue, we should meet our projections. Any revenue questions?
It's actually not shown under this breakdown, but sewer revenue, where the precinct has not billed yet. What's happening there?
There's no sewer revenue other than payments. The bills should be going out next week, but no 2024 revenue.
The bills have been delayed.
The bills should go out. The bills should go out next week, we hope. There's an issue with the meters. There's been an issue with the meters, and the precinct commissioners are working through that. I think they're pretty close. EJ Prescott was here last Friday. Christine and the town clerk tax collector gave them a list of the properties that have looked to not be correct at the moment, which they are checking now. So if you don't know, sewer revenue is based on water usage. So they're billed together. All right. And then expenses. If you look, go to the next page. For everyone at home that's excited to be looking at this. IT is definitely running high. This was the year to replace the PD server, which I think came in a little above budget. We also, because of our split with the precinct, had to upgrade our sewer computer. And we purchased a computer for the executive administrative assistant. Personnel admin looks high, but that's really because of timing. We've already paid the July, that's the June, but had already paid the July health insurance. Cemeteries will be fine because we'll get a reimbursement from the trust. Regional planning is done for the year. Health agencies is done for the year. Welfare is running below budget. It's interesting. I saw a report that statewide welfare expenditures are way above budget. But we're not seeing that at this point. We're also very fortunate here that a lot of people donate a lot of funds and vegetables and all sorts of things, which really makes a huge difference. And bond principal and interest is timing. Those are all accurate for the year. So halfway through, we expect to be on both revenue and expenses.
I think I had asked last month that, and I don't know if you have any information yet on whether or not we're the ambulance, if we're been able to answer additional calls because of the.
So there were 2 this morning. There were 2 one day last week. And we're trying to track that, but I know there have been certainly some.
Good. And not good.
But that's that. I did not expect.
I had read about the state, I guess, Secretary of State's office, that the state will be paying something towards new counting machines.
$3,500 per machine.
And is that, are we going to be planning to get a new machine this calendar year?
We'll get them when they're approved.
Do you know any more about that, Steve?
No. Yeah.
They, there are 2 machines that are potential. One, which is the open source machine, has been approved at this point, met all the conditions. The other one, which is a Dominion machine, which is what our sense is most towns are doing from the workshops I've been to and everybody else. Partly because it's provided and serviced by OHS, which has been our provider right along, and they have excellent service. The other machine doesn't have a local vendor to provide service, and that's a little concerning. So as soon as the final things are done, which they've told us will be this year, we'll be able to do that. I'm pretty sure at this point, if my understanding is right, we might purchase it this year, or we might purchase it next year. The first time it will be used will be town meeting in 2025. It won't be used. For one thing, we have the primary. It definitely won't be ready for the primary, and nobody wants to use a new machine for the presidential election.
Probably a good idea.
No matter if it's better or not, nobody wants to use it for the first time then. And the money for towns that aren't buying voting machines, they can use for poll books also. But we already have those, so that's good.
Thank you.
Which is probably a much longer answer than you want.
It was informative. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
And that's it on the financials.
Okay. All right, you can open it to public comment. Bob, it's you. All right.
I can stay here. Speak up. Bob Lepre, I'm a member of the Conservation Commission, and I have a communication from the commission that I'd like to enter into the record. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission has supported the pay-by-bag program from its inception. It has been an opportunity for our community to reduce our waste stream and increase the recycling. It is disheartening to see that the select board has chosen to suspend enforcement of the program without a good faith effort to make the program work by effective monitoring and enforcement. We urge the board to reconsider the de facto suspension of the program and institute a good faith effort to make the program succeed through effective monitoring and enforcement. That's Ron Klamarczyk, Robert Knight, Bonnie Christie, Stephanie Karatzis, Catherine Mitchell, Molly Hardenberg, and Robert Lepre.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone online?
I have another once you get to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have quite a few town administrator things if you want to
Okay,
go
yeah.
back to that.
Thank you, Bob, for being here. I guess we'll close public comment and do town administrator updates.
Sure. I have a bunch, but I'll go quickly. We've had a request from the people doing the fireworks to put a banner on. Well, I think the town hall was one request and the covered bridge was another request. We don't really have a policy, but it seems to me like in both those cases, that's probably not a good road to go down in deciding. I just think putting it on historic buildings, that's my personal opinion, is probably not the way we want to go.
And you're talking about fireworks for this, I forget what it's called.
The police association and I think with Discover Kentucky sponsor that.
Certainly without a policy of what would make sense, it kind of opens up a giant door to having a banner on the building at all times.
I mean, so this request, I mean, I think there's been more than one, but
yeah,
one was made to me. And, you know, although I think we all support and want the annual fireworks celebration to be very successful, I think if we say yes to this, we could expect other requests. And in the absence of any sort of direction, it would be maybe challenging to say yes to someone and no to someone else. So, and I don't think there's maybe enough time to have one cobbled together and adopted. I don't know how long that would take. So until that happens, I think it might be a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And I guess the question is, do you want a policy on that, or do you want to just say
we don't hang things on town hall?
That would be the question, because we can draft a policy.
I'm not inclined to have a policy to change our current policy, which is that we just don't do this, but happy to talk about that more if we want to.
No, I generally agree.
Unpack that. Okay.
Okay. And at the same time, that request came in, there was a request for a donation towards the fireworks. That came in last year, and I think you decided you did not donate. So I throw that out there.
We just went over the budget and we have a line item for patriotic purposes. Have we expended that line item already?
We haven't, but that's the town band.
That's right.
For Memorial Day and the summer concerts.
Thank you.
Other updates?
Is that
I think
is that a no?
I think that's a no,
Okay.
yeah.
Just making sure.
Yes.
Horseshoe Tavern, believe it or not, we're slowly but surely moving. We were all set to have the asbestos removal done the day before the 4th of July, and then the hygienist couldn't be there and that got pushed off. So it won't take long to get the work done as soon as this final thing is done, and then we can get our permit and do that. It's vacation time for me. I'll be here this week, but not the next two. I'll be back for the next meeting. But between Kara and probably Beverly in there to get the agenda and stuff done for the next meeting. And staff is all here, and I always monitor emails because it's easier than trying to catch up. I think I had mentioned we're in a reval, but I had also mentioned that our assessors are retiring. We did put out an RFP last week soliciting assessors to begin January 1. So we're hopeful we'll see. I'm hoping that we do get some responses. There are very few assessing firms left in New Hampshire. That a lot of people are retiring, and so towns are together. So we've had some conversations with other towns too as they go about doing it. And we'll see. We're kind of ahead of them, which is on purpose. And we'll see how that goes. Also, that it went out, we were given phase 2 and 3 of the housing grant, and the RFP went out for the consultant to do that. There were 3 submissions, and they have a subcommittee that will be meeting this week to narrow that down. My guess is they'll review those and interview 2 or 3 of them to go from there. I think I already mentioned that we put out about dump stickers and people have been coming like crazy. Work is happening on Briar Hill. Largely the intersection at Pennacook Road is getting close, and that's going to be paved before, as soon as it's ready to be paved. So that will clear up Pennacook Road and the intersection there as they continue down the other way.
I had a question on that. Once it's completed, will Briar Hill coming into Pennacook, will you have to make a 90-degree turn in either direction?
You
As
will.
opposed to the way it is now.
I think now it's a 90-degree turn. I think when I was through there yesterday, it was 90 degrees.
As of a month ago.
What was it?
I mean, it was sort of a Y, yeah.
Yeah,
previously.
it will not be a Y.
Okay, okay.
We try to eliminate, for safety reasons and plowing reasons and all sorts of reasons, we try to eliminate all the Y sight distance. The sight distance coming down should be better. And it also requires people to stop versus just shooting through. So yes. And that will get paved as soon as they're ready to do that. We already mentioned the water and sewer bills, hopefully will be out next week. And the wastewater treatment facility solar project is moving forward. So, and that's good. We're managing that in. We had the engineers, outside engineers had been helping a little, and they submitted a proposal which was $61,000, and we don't need that. So we'll be doing that in-house. DS does not require an on-site outside engineer for this. This is considered a design build, and revision can do that. So I think we will be set there using our own staff.
And the time frame for completion?
I think it's supposed to be done by spring. So, everything's been sent to Eversource now. The surveying's done. We're pretty close to being able to break ground, so that's good. And I think that is it.
Okay. We have no other on the agenda, FYI.
Neil actually addressed my other.
Oh, good.
So
Okay.
you can, disregard that request.
Okay.
What happened to
We
other?
might have granted you an exception.
Okay.
Can I bring up the timing for the stickers? Transfer station?
Yeah, okay.
So I brought this up with Neil a bit, just because I know that you and the other town administrator were gonna come up with a plan. I'm gonna try to help out and come up with ways that we can get there to help administer stickers and do enforcement and stuff. Did you send out the notice to Susan Colbert? Because it's been in her email twice.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Well, she follows our Facebook page, so
Great.
she picked it up there.
Do you think we need to be there to try to hand out stickers if you've gotten 200 in a day?
That's a good question.
Because I was gonna suggest that we come up with a schedule of when we could be there to
After the fact.
or the first to try to hand out stickers and
It
make
seems like
but
that might not be a bad idea
before the
to
first
give out some then.
or after the first.
And then, well, after the first,
You gotta
the
apply.
ordinance, you get
Right.
turned away. So
Okay, so in lieu of still having lots of registrations, we should still do it before.
that, although I guess people believe the posts. People believe the posts because they've been coming in.
Yeah.
And we have some signs which will go up too that will say, it says Hopkinton Webster Transfer Station, permit required, just a temporary available at your town clerk's office. So to start reminding people, those should be up this week.
I remember talking about this, but I don't know if we actually landed in a place. Is the clerk's office advising on where people are supposed to place the sticker, or does it not matter?
It does. It's in the ordinance. It needs to be on the lower right side,
Lower right, okay.
passenger side.
I
Well,
didn't see
except
that.
for except for Thomas's
I'm like
vehicle.
mixed up on this one.
The right side.
I didn't see that in the Facebook post the town did, but maybe it was in there. I could
It's
have
in the
missed
ordinance
it.
for sure.
know I'm
Yeah,
thinking-
and they have been telling people.
Okay, good. Because the
As,
post was super helpful, I thought on
as they
Facebook,
did
but
it.
I didn't notice if it specified.
and we
so-
did add quickly, the old sticker is still fine.
Mhm.
Webster is coming to the next meeting to discuss sticker policy. I'm still in favor of switching them yearly or every other year, or doing something different to keep them up to date. I
Mhm.
think the $5 makes it hard, although some people think that's probably not a bad idea either. But so they're coming to talk about stickers in general and whether that should be changed. I think all the fees have been out there. Jolene had a few concerns. She's making a list of those, which we'll bring to the next meeting to just sort of mostly practical things of, okay, what is meant by this and how, she just wants to be absolutely sure we're being consistent across the board and following everything. So as she's looked at that, and they'll have had 2 weeks almost of the new fees to kind of
That's
talk
gonna be
about.
on the 19th.
That's I think it's before then. It's the 12th.
Yeah, our
Yeah,
next meeting is the 12th.
Okay, do we want to come up with a schedule when we can be there to hand out stickers? Before,
Would be this Saturday,
yeah, it'd be like
Monday
this.
or Wednesday.
Right, right. And then also, should we be there on the 1st to do, or I guess the 2nd? To do enforcement?
We should be there enforcing now, just not giving out stickers, just turning them away. Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah, weren't
On
we
a
gonna
sticker,
come up
go
with
get
a
one.
schedule between the two select boards? I thought,
That was up to my memory as well.
That was, yes.
Well, I was wondering if we want to just do that now, like if we don't have one, we can come up with one. I don't think we have to be there all the time.
Spot check.
Yeah.
yeah, I thought we talked about coming up with dates and not necessarily sharing those so that we could do effective spot checking. Letting people know that,
Catherine's the only person listening.
no, this was in our meeting with Webster though, that we decided, I'm pretty sure that we decided that we would alert people that there will be spot checking, but that we were not going to say exactly when.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
But before the 1st, do we still want to
I see.
just have to remind people
Well,
or not remind people and just?
as you know, we had 7 people last time or 6 people. And it was still a little slow. I'm much more inclined.
I'm not recommending giving out stickers, but not necessarily turning them away, but telling them that they gotta go get one.
I would much rather turn them away. Because you're just gonna go through the same thing after the 1st. Only they're gonna have to come in and pay for sticker.
I
then,
know, but it's nice
and
to
they're gonna
give
be more
people-
angry.
it's nice.
I think they had a warning last time, didn't they?
We were only there for like 4 hours
Yeah.
out of the.
And how
hours a
many
week?
Facebook posts have told them to come in and get a sticker? Well, how many chances are you gonna give them?
We can just go straight to enforcement. I don't want to live at the transfer station. I'm happy to go eat, go hang out. And do whatever we want to do. I'm fine
Maybe we
with
can
it.
get a permit to drink on town property. That's it.
Is that gonna be the next?
Sure, you recycle them.
Yeah.
The main point is we should get there and we should have many more days beyond just a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So what days do we want to do? And who can do it?
You wanna go?
We did not at any point post that people would be able to get stickers there. And as a matter of fact, they had a roll of stickers there that I've taken, not because I wasn't taking them away from them, but that we really needed them here. So, and we do have more stickers coming in this week.
Well, then in the absence of trying to, in trying to be more of a random spot check, do we all just want to commit to showing up at the transfer station for X number of hours over the next 2 weeks?
It's only a week.
Turn people out? I know, we should be there after the first 2
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2 weeks.
Is
I
Webster
still have the sign that says sticker check in progress. Please be patient.
I want to be there when Jeff's there. So,
Let's go.
okay, good. Well, then we can.
I can't make it before the first.
So when the talk was at the first, that it would be people from
I-
both boards and a police officer
Before the first, or after the first?
after the
After the
first.
first.
Okay. So what are you want to be there before the first as what? Like a reminder to people they have to go get a sticker, or what's your?
The gentler and the more warning we give and the more public it is, the
Mhm.
better this is gonna be.
Yeah, okay.
So
So before the first being there, but you wouldn't necessarily turn people away at that point. You would just say like, hey, you gotta. Is that what you're
if,
talking about?
if it was just me there, I would give, if they were, I'd probably check resident, I'd do my best to say, are you from Hopkinton or Webster? Check ID. And if they're not, turn them away.
Mhm.
And if they are, give them a very strong reminder that as of the first, they're not gonna be able to go in. Just a reminder.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm from a different school.
Are there signs up saying at the transfer station that people have to get stickers? I can't remember.
I think on the general sign, it says stickers
Oh, okay.
required, just because it always has, but we're gonna have a tent sign that
Well,
will be
I'd
there
happy
this
to
week.
be a gentle reminder.
Gentle
maybe,
reminder.
Yeah.
And then after the first
See, I knew you didn't want to go.
was,
No, and then I'm gonna go be an enforcer with Jeff. I'll do both.
was TJ, was Chief Hennessy gonna be there?
So,
Were they gonna staff somebody after the first?
so it was sort of left out
in the air?
there. So I have not asked him specifically for any, because there were no dates or anything.
Yeah, I sort of took it that when we, perhaps in conjunction with Webster, decided when we were going to go do spot checks, we would then contact TJ or the police and say, hey, can we get an officer for an hour or two
Mhm.
to come,
Yeah.
shoot people away.
Because we said we were gonna actually turn people away.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't recall us reaching out to him to get a commitment on scheduling. So I think it's
Yeah.
up to us, in other words, to tell him when we're going to be there.
Got it. Okay.
So we can maybe figure out after the first.
Why
I
don't,
guess we need to contact TJ.
I could send out a quick survey to the board, just asking for what times you guys have available.
Maybe Neil could do that.
can. Well,
If you send me the survey, I'll send it
maybe
out.
a survey for Neil to send out, asking for everyone's availability, and then we can get maybe groups of 2 people
Mhm.
at a couple different random times between now and the 5th. And then the times after the first, we will coordinate with Chief Hennessy.
Mhm.
I think that's a good idea. I think you want more than 2 people there.
Sure.
Well,
Well,
Jeff and anybody else.
No, I just, it was different when we were giving out stickers
Right.
and writing down license plates and,
Mhm.
if it's just, you have a sticker, no. You
Yeah.
need to get one before the first, or you're not gonna be let in.
Yeah,
Or if it's me, you don't have one, go get one.
yeah.
Town hall's open.
Mhm.
It's the only reason I'm not going Friday, because town hall's not open Friday afternoon. Cause I was gonna go this Friday.
And Friday and Saturday will be the 2 days that it's
Yep.
not open.
Right. Yeah, and we did talk about doing it on days when the clerk's office is open.
Maybe we'll do that.
Maybe.
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 Although Saturdays are the busy days, so they're gonna have to be checked at some point.
Okay.
Can you do a gentle reminder this Saturday, Thomas?
I might, not for the entire day, but I
Right.
can almost definitely for a portion.
For a little bit, okay. Maybe we
I
can do
won't-
that, because then people can still come in if they have appropriate.
Right.
License.
I'll put together timesheet, get that.
I'll send it out.
I'll send it out. We'll get some times. We'll do it. Be great.
Okay. Fun.
So much.
All right, there's no non-publics tonight.
No, we're saving them all up.
Oh, good. Okay.
Cool. When you're on vacation?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. And,
Motion to adjourn?
all right,
Second.
Second.
all those in favor?